Welcome everybody, it's Unstoppable Stilezzi here, and this will be my first ever Age of Empires 2 Return of Rome cast a game. It's part of a series I'm going to be doing where I'll be casting more and more of these multiplayer games between different players in the Return of Rome community. Since I haven't begun a lot of recordings in DE3 lately, I figured now would sort of be the perfect time to start picking up Return of Rome, since it's probably one of my more favorite Age of Empires titles, and I definitely think it's one that does not get a lot of attention as it should. You know, I think a huge part of the AoE 1 community is still playing AoE 1, either the old one or Definitive Edition. And I definitely think the devs sort of messed up in a sense when they thought, oh yeah, everyone from AoE 1 Definitive Edition is just going to put that game down and go do Return of Rome. Nah, didn't quite happen like that, so we'll see how it goes. But without further ado, this is going to be our first game that we're ever going to do. It will be a 2 versus 2 between, it looks like, the Egyptians and Hittites versus the Minoans and Babylonians. So without further ado, let's get started and see how this one turns out. This is CaptureAge, by the way. It's a really nice piece of software you can use to help you spectate all sorts of Definitive Edition games, whether it's regular DE or Return of Rome, so definitely keep that in mind. Even gives you a bit of a tutorial to go through all the cool analytical tools that you have with this, so definitely check that out sometime. And if you want even more tools from it, you're more than free to get the premium version as well, but you do have to cough up a couple of gold to get it, so just be aware of that. Here we have the beginning of the game, and notice how you start the game in Return of Rome. You build a house, but you also have to start building your granary right away as well. Just like regular Age of Empires 2 in Return of Rome, you do need to make sure you keep up with your house construction, because if you get house, just like in regular AoE 2, that's going to be a huge advantage for your opponent, and they're more likely going to be able to send in more units against you if you're behind in these early stages of the game. So you have to stick to the standard Return of Rome build order pretty crisp, I think, for you to have a decent shot in a lot of these matches. One thing you'll notice right away when playing Return of Rome is you don't get scout cavalry at the start of the game. So what you actually have to do is you have to take your villagers like this and just walk around the whole perimeter of your town center looking for some key resources, namely huntable animals like this or this, stone, gold. Yeah, your villager's going to have to go and find those things for you. And sometimes the RNG is not in your favor and you have to walk a little bit farther to find some of the stuff. So, you know, you have to be flexible. Another thing that you do often in Return of Rome that you don't do that much in regular AoE 2 is actually starting off on straggler trees and not actually building a basic lumber camp or any of those other things you would in AoE 2 right away. The main reason is the wood costs of getting a storage pit, which is basically where you would drop off your wood pretty much, is kind of expensive at the start, so you have to actually build it a bit later to be able to keep up with your standard build order pretty much. It's actually much better too that once you find certain huntable animals like your elephants or some of your more smaller animals like your zebras / deer, that you start working on those right away as well once you get a certain number of villagers onto the berries. It's because you're going to rely a lot on these huntable animals to get you up to the tool age, which is basically your feudal age in Return of Rome. So yeah, you're definitely going to want to set that up. But do be aware that when it comes to hunting animals, it's much easier to lure in these big animals that can attack you, because obviously they're aggressive and they'll follow you back to your base. Whereas these animals, if you throw the javelin in the wrong direction, they just skitter off all the way over here, away from any easy place that you can gather them from. So look at this. Look what happened to the zebra. It's all the way over here. Totally useless in a normal scenario to actually get a real food out of, because the villager has to walk all the way around here. So just make sure when you're dealing with these deer-like animals that you try to get them more in this direction if possible. Or, as in the case of Cristiano here, just have a storage pit nearby to basically start collecting them nearby. And that's something I should go over too with you. The way that drop sites work in Return of Rome is a bit wonky from what you're used to in regular Age of Empires 2 gameplay. So, basically, hunted animals, wood, stone, and gold all gets dropped off at a storage pit, whereas fruit, like these berries, as well as farming, all gets dropped off at the granary. So that might mix up a few players that are like, wait a second, why are my villagers dropping off their hunted meat at the same building I'm getting my wood from? Well, it's just the way it is, folks. Get used to it. If you don't like it, you're definitely not going to like Return of Rome too much. And that's the other thing, too. A lot of the tech trees, a lot of the building functionalities are totally different in Return of Rome than they are in regular AoE 2, so it is going to have to take a bit of getting used to, I think, before you master it, honestly. Yep. Just like in regular Age of Empires 2, you actually can construct your barracks in the first stage, which is the Stone Age, and start to make clubmen. They're a bit like militia, but not quite. They actually have a bonus against cavalry. So yeah, if somebody's making scout cavalry early on, it actually is possible to totally dominate them by spamming these clubmen, basically. And they only cost food, too, so they're a pretty cheap unit overall, I would say. So yeah, it's pretty normal to get at least a small number of clubmen in every game in Return of Rome, just so you have a bit of a defense, and you have a bit of an offense potential. Do note, in Return of Rome, you can garrison inside your town centers, which was not possible in AoE 1, but the town center will not fire any arrows at all. So when it comes to actually getting rid of the units they're attacking, you do need to train either military, or you have to start building some sort of watchtowers around your town center to fire at them. Yeah, it's a bit different than what you're used to. I think everybody in AoE 2 is sort of used to having the town center do the work in the early ages and just sticking the old vills inside of it. You don't get that luxury here. You actually have to get some able-bodied men and go fight them off yourself, basically. Or else your town center will gradually succumb to the clubs or axes or whatever weapon they're using, really. Yeah. So I'm just looking around at the different players here and seeing how they're setting up. Just like in AoE 2, it's a good idea to try to wall when you have convenient tree lines like this. I mean, he could even plug up this little spot over here, which would be really smart, just to make sure that the clubmen now upgraded to axemen, which is basically like their man-at-arms style upgrade. Do not pressure your villagers and start wiping them all out, because, let me tell you, this is not as much of a forgiving game, I think, as AoE 2 is in terms of pressure. If you really mess up your defense, it's very easy to lose within the first so many minutes of the game if you don't know what you're doing. So just be aware of that. You got to make sure you're walling properly and you have enough defense in your base to be able to deal with pressure. If you can't do that, you're going to be pretty low on the ELO in this game, and that's coming from someone who does have a pretty low rating at this game, honestly, I could deal with opponents to an extent, but once they get really, intense and they start coming in with huge armies of bowmen and stuff, I definitely need a lot of practice in that area personally. But I could certainly teach you a thing or two about avoiding that from just seeing so much gameplay and experiencing it over the years. Well, I wouldn't say that long, because how long has Return of Rome been around? Not that long, but enough I think that we can at least understand sort of how the meta works at this point, yeah. So you can see here, not only do we have the barracks, we also have the archery range as well. So there's different military buildings, just like in AoE 2, that you can basically utilize to set up your offense and defense capabilities. Yeah, you want to be active in this game. You always want to be pressuring your opponents, taking out villagers, taking out military units. It's just a good idea overall to be doing. But I will say that the military buildings are a bit different, I think, in terms of what they offer. So the barracks, for the most part, has trash units that don't really get upgraded that much, with the exception of the swordsmen. Whereas the archery range, is looking a bit more vibrant, They got the bowman, which is sort of like your trash unit archer that costs food and wood, which you can make in the tool age. And then later on, you can basically get the improved bowman, which is a better archer that costs gold, and then you can upgrade to the composite bowman depending on what your tech tree is, and that's sort of like your Bronze Age level archer. Note how it doesn't have any upgrade into the Iron Age, which is like your Imperial Age. For that, you're basically going to have more advanced archer units like the Horse Archer and Elephant Archer that you're going to be using for super late games, so just be acutely aware of that. And you do have the ability later on too to get well, actually, I wouldn't say later on, but in the Bronze Age, you get Chariot Archers as well. So there's all sorts of different cool units you have in Return of Rome that you don't see in AoE 2. Chariots, elephants, horse cavalry like the Scout Cavalry here, and even camel riders too. Though they don't really get upgraded at all, so just be aware of that. In Bronze Age, that you're probably not going to want to keep using them into the Iron Age unless it's a really favorable trade, perhaps. So yeah. Lots of little calculations to do in your head when you're planning your defense and offense, I would say. Yeah. I like how everybody's utilizing their defenses here. I think Cristiano is definitely saving a bit on his stone here by making a lot of his houses, his market, his stable, and his barracks part of his wall. That's a cool trick that you see a lot in AoE 2 as well on Arabia. So yeah, definitely a good choice to be doing that. Yeah, I'm just walking around and seeing, alright, this person's doing that, this person's doing that. Something I would say you really should consider when you're in the Tool Age, which is your Feudal Age, none of your units actually cost gold. So you really don't even need to worry about gold until you're heading towards the Third Age, the Bronze Age, where you start to experience units that cost gold, like your swordsmen, like your cavalry. Like actual cavalry, not scout cavalry. There's a class of cav in this literally just called cav, yeah. And then it gets upgraded later on to additional upgrades until they eventually become full cataphracts, yeah. Unfortunately, those ones don't have any splash, I believe. They're just, just strong cavalry, so yeah, basically. We see a bit of a skirmish here, pretty much between archers and slingers. These slingers are basically like skirms, pretty much. In AoE 2, they have multipliers against the archer units, so if you're dealing with the lot of bowmen, they're just destroying your villagers and stuff, feel free to make some slingers to help you out. They're actually the only unit, I believe, in Age of Empires as a whole that actually costs stone. Yeah. Unless there's something in AoE 4 I'm not aware about, the Slinger would be the only military unit in any Age of Empires series that actually costs stone, yeah. So yeah, it's pretty strange actually when you think of that. Like, normally you use stone to build things like castles, towers, walls. But no, these guys actually cost literal stone, which actually makes perfect sense because they're literally throwing stones at you. Of course they would cost stone, go figure. Look at how good they're doing though against these bowmen. This is really good. Really good overall. Absolutely wonderful, actually. And this is an important tech right here I wanted to point out. It basically helps your villagers to move faster, but it also unlocks chariot units as well. So chariot archers from the archery range, as well as the chariot from the stable. Yeah. There's a lot of weird technologies in this game that do different things than what you expect. Like, basically wheel acted sort of like a wheelbarrow, but also being a literal military upgrade that actually gives you more units, yeah. And, by the way, I should probably explain at this point how upgrading works in Return of Rome. So, you actually get your blacksmith upgrades from the storage pit, the same place where your villagers drop off resources, like, wow, I would never expected that, right? Well, yeah. And then the granary is where you actually upgrade and unlock your towers and walls, basically. So you can upgrade your walls here as well as your towers, basically. That one you wouldn't expect either. And then the market actually contains all your economic upgrades. But do be acutely aware that a lot of these economic upgrades actually affect your military as well. Like, basically, wood chopping upgrades actually increases the range of your archery units. So if you want these chariot archers to actually shoot from a longer range, you actually have to get wood chopping upgrades from the market to actually do that. Whereas stone gathering upgrades actually increases the range of your slingers. Yeah, I bet you wouldn't expect that one, right? Yeah. Just a bunch of cool little things you should be aware of, basically, when you're upgrading your stuff. That the tech tree is totally a lot stranger than what you're used to in regular AoE 2, definitely. These Chariot Archers can be a real menace, and they're such a powerhouse unit in the Bronze Age. Mainly because they're actually trash units, yeah. They actually only cost food and wood, which you think, oh wow, Cav Archers that cost food and wood? That's like insane, right? Well, yeah, in the Bronze Age they are, but they don't get any upgrades beyond the Bronze Age, so they sort of just lose value later in the game. That's sort of the thing that balances them out, I guess, in a way. Yeah. Notice here how green is forced to defend against these Chariot Archers with composite bowmen. Technically, the Chariot Archers are the better unit here because they're trash units, and these composite bowmen, as I mentioned before, are an upgrade of the improved bowmen and are a gold-costing archer unit. So, it looks like green is actually losing gold, having to fight these Chariot Archers, whereas red, yeah, he's holding on to his gold, yeah. Looks like the yellow ally will be sending in chariots to help defend at this point. So, yep, looks like he's going to be sending some help in the form of that. Also making cavalry as well. I guess what I could say the main difference between chariots and cavalry is the cavalry costs food and gold, whereas the chariots, similar to the Chariot Archers, are actually another trash unit that costs them food and wood as well. And in terms of like military-wise, I would say the cavalry is probably the stronger unit in terms of overall stats, whereas the chariot actually has some splash attack, yeah, that gets better with their Iron Age upgrade, the Scythe Chariot, which makes their splash even more pronounced, basically. So yeah, these chariots actually are a really effective unit that you can use deep into the late game for most civs with their Scythe Chariot upgrade, so... If you like chariots, you're going to love this game. You're going to be spamming them a whole lot, I would say, because, well, they cost food and wood, so that's kind of one of the resources you can get pretty easily, as you might expect. Farming for food and chopping wood for wood. Yeah, so these chariots and cavalry are forcing the Chariot Archers to kite a bit here. And I don't know if they're going to get a safe spot to shoot in, actually. So it looks like they might have to retreat out of there, which looks like what they're doing a bit right here. Taking out another chariot. More Chariot Archers are coming, and here comes a Stone Thrower. This is one of your siege units that you use in Return of Rome. It's a lot like a Mangonel in a way, but it doesn't shoot a bunch of stones in a wide arc. It just shoots one big giant rock at them, basically. It's good for siege and sometimes can be used against units as well, depending on how you have them grouped up and everything. Yeah. Yep, so basically it looks like this big army of Chariot Archers is going to be what they're going to be doing here. Yeah. Well, it looks like they got so many Chariot Archers on this side that literally this army of Cav is going to have to retreat for right now. Yeah. Oh, the Stone Thrower is going to be really good against these composite bowmen, actually. Because it looks like all of that help from yellow gave green some time to mass up his composite archers here. So the only way he's really going to gain an edge on him again is basically by using the siege to wipe out their numbers and pressure them back. Note how these archers keep being forced to retreat as the Stone Throwers become closer and closer to him, yeah. That's one of the cool things about these siege units is they can be really dangerous if you're not careful, pretty much. And at the very least, you're going to force them to be walking like they're on hot coals, basically, like this, bouncing around, avoiding getting hit, just about, yeah. Oh, that's in some Camel Riders. Yeah, these are good anti-cavalry, just like they would be in AoE 2, basically. The only difference is, of course, like I mentioned before, Camel Riders don't actually get any unit upgrades, I would say. Like, they don't become heavy camels or anything like that. They just stick as the same sort of unit for the rest of the game. So, in Bronze Age, yeah, wonderful unit. But as you go into the Iron Age, you can still potentially see their usage in some situations where speed is needed. But for the most part, they kind of get phased out by more infantry, I would say. Yeah. And that's making me wonder, are we going to see an academy today at all? Or maybe not. Yeah. There's another building called the Academy, which basically trains another infantry unit you don't actually have at the barracks, called the Hoplite, which becomes the Phalangolite, and eventually the Centurion. And it's basically a Teutonic Knight, like a prototype of a Teutonic Knight. So really good melee armor, good okay pierce armor, and it's just really good to mass up against Cav in particular, and just completely shreds it. I can fight other things too in mass, you know. It's probably like the strongest unit in the game, really, other than like your War Elephants, which you have in this as well. Yeah. Look at all these Chariot Archers just doing such a wonderful job. From my experience, the Chariot Archer is probably one of the best units in Return of Rome, just because of how massable it is and how much it actually does in the early Bronze Age, basically. So yeah, quite a good job that they're performing here. Looks like green has made it to the Iron Age now. You can see that right up here. So they're probably going to start getting some stronger units, I would think. I don't know if they're going to change over to... What civ are they? The Minoans? What do the Minoans get? It's been a while. So it looks like they're going to begin their own siege right now in the form of stone throwers. And beyond those, then, it looks like. Yeah. And who is ready to get... Oh, red's the Hittites, yeah. The Hittites, as you can imagine, get really good chariot units. Because that's basically one of their best weapons if you know the history of the Bronze Age. The Hittites were actually the ones that managed to get multiple people onto one chariot that other nations weren't able to do, basically, you know. I believe the chariots of the Hittites were able to field 3 people on top of it instead of 2, so... just another person to throw rocks or spears or fire arrows from, basically, which made it a much more efficient weapon, really. Yeah, and here they're just more, I would guess, spammable and more efficient overall, so definitely go chariots when you go the Hittites. It's like their best asset. And then as you get towards the Iron Age, you probably want to go more towards Scythe Chariot with them, which is probably their best unit. I believe they do have some other options too, like the horse archers that you can utilize pretty well, so... Are you done to see a... Yeah, this is definitely getting very intense. Looks like red is losing ground on his forward base to these stone throwers and these composite bowmen. Yeah. Alright, chariot archers... trying to get as many kills in as possible and keep the numbers advantage on their home front here, if you can call it that. Whereas blue is getting some temples, so we might see some priest action today. That'd be pretty cool. Yeah. Just like the monks in AoE 2, the priests, of course, can convert units and so forth. So, yep, you definitely have that advantage here, I would say. Absolutely. Yeah, big time, You gotta watch this side, though, because I think he's gonna sneak up on him if he's not careful. Like, look, see this? This is what you have to be careful of in Return of Rome. It's very... You could lose your economy in a New York minute. It's not even a joke. Like, 1 second you're not in an area you're supposed to be, you could very well lose a large number of your villas very easily. So you gotta be paying attention to whatever you're doing here. And I mean, he is trying to construct some buildings to keep him out, but yeah, once the archers get to your tree line there, you're kind of in trouble, really. So you definitely have to make sure you keep up with all that. I'm pretty sure, though, he's making some sort of defense, right? He's getting a lot of siege workshops, and he's even upgrading his stone throwers to the catapult, which is their next upgrade, basically. It makes them even more efficient. Yep, he's coming right through here, though, so he's going to have to do something. Or he's going to be in real trouble real fast. So what is Jezzy going to do? He's going to get another town center in the back. Is he just stalling out for time? What is he... Oh, and now he's getting ballistics as well. Yeah, this is basically just like ballistics in AoE 2. It basically gives your units more accuracy against moving targets, basically. Which definitely in this case you're going to need when your base is really getting pressured this hard here. Oh, even sneaks in a few chariots as well to help the invading army. Very interesting. But now we do see the Chariot archers starting to mass up here for the defense. And it looks like his ally, Popeye, actually has the Scythe Chariots now. This will be very good. These are a very massable trash unit, as I mentioned, that have a really good splash. So these will absolutely wreck all these archers in siege, without a doubt, you know. I think one of the few things you can use for the most part to get rid of Scythe Chariots is either, you know, Centurions or just massing up a lot of towers, basically. Those tend to be the best things to stave them off, but obviously in this battlefield you don't have any of those spear infantry or towers, so your Scythe Chariots will rule the day here and just do a really excellent job at defending. Yep. And how's it going up here? Looks like Popeye's doing quite well. He's basically got control of this forward gold here, which could almost be considered part of yellow side of the map, so that's definitely a very good steal right there. Chariot archers working on raiding these green villagers. If he could take out all these gold gatherers, it's definitely going to hurt his ability to keep making composite bowmen and stone throwers. Yeah, big time. Yep, more Scythe Chariots coming out on blue side. Got some priests for some quick conversions and heals. Very nice addition there. Yeah, look at that chariot there getting wiped out. Alright. Still doing cavalry and chariots, I guess. They're all in the Iron Age now, so it's just a question of is he going to get any upgrades. So now Cristiano's going to get the Scythe Chariots to combat blue. Okay, so that's going to make things a bit more spicy here, because now you got Scythe Chariots on both sides of the battlefield. Alright, yeah. That siege was totally left on guard and it got completely wiped there, for the most part. Yeah. Oh, Phalangulate. Ooh, this is going to be a big addition here, honestly, for the Minoans, yeah. These are those tanky infantry I was talking about from the Academy, right? So where's the Academy? Right here. Yeah. Basically, once you start spamming these Phalangulates and eventually Centurions, you're going to have a very strong melee force to push into somebody's base with, and it's going to be pretty hard to wipe them out. They'll completely cook chariots, you know, and these Scythe Chariots will get completely destroyed by them, so that's probably a good unit movement that he's doing, honestly. Can't recall if the Minoans get Centurion. If they do, that'd probably be a good upgrade to get eventually, though it is very expensive. It does cost like a lot of food and gold to get, so yeah. You definitely have to be aware of that when you're upgrading them. Actually, a lot of the Iron Age upgrades are very expensive, you'll find, so only get them if you really feel like you're going to get the most out of them, I would say, for the most part. Yeah. I think this is going to define who wins here. Can he basically wipe out these academies before these Phalangites basically start taking over the battle here? Because from what I understand, what Jesse and Popeye are doing is mostly mounted units, you know. That's the one thing you don't want to do against a big army of these Phalangites, basically. It's a pretty fair Scythe Chariot war up here between both sides, for the most part. Scythe Chariot versus Scythe Chariot, I would say. Yeah. Egypt, as you know, has some pretty good chariot units as well, so that's why they're focusing on Scythe Chariot right now. And it looks like Hittites are moving more towards Horse Archer, yeah. Though they are known for their chariots, they do have the option of moving towards Horse Archer and Heavy Horse Archer for the late game in the Iron Age, so they do have a more updated roster for their ranged cavalry to be able to keep the fight going on their side, yeah. And these catapults here are going to be a really good siege, but he does need to be able to protect them. I don't know if he has the right protection for him, though. I mean, he's going to disrupt this storage pit. That's going to be pretty obnoxious. Yeah, that's going to be really obnoxious. Yep, looks like Yeah, has to stay away from these things. These things are completely stompy if you're not careful. Look at how much attack they get. 20 plus 7. Jeez, that's a lot of attack there. A lot of attack. And this is the armor values on them. They are really good at tanking melee armor. They can do a little bit of... They have a bit of protection from pierce armor with the upgrades at the storage pit, but their real focus is in fighting in melee. These are basically the prototype of the Teutonic Knight. And that's something the AoE 2 developers in some interviews basically acknowledged early on, is the Teutonic Knight was actually one of the few units that was directly inspired by Age of Empires 1 just because of that similar pierce, that similar hack armor consistency between both of them pretty much, yeah. And the high attack, of course, too. Now they're Centurions, and they're going to be even more powerful, doing 30 plus 7 damage. And the hack armor is looking to be 14 in total now. That is very big, actually. What is Hittites going to do? Well, it looks like they're going to do Heavy Horse Archer with Catapult. They're going to go all range, and that's probably the best thing that they can do here. The best way to handle a mass of Centurions is literally just to go full range. And hope that they don't mix in a cav or anything. And the siege will be a good help as well. You know, if he can target well with the siege, that'll also be a great asset here. But, watch out, watch out. Yeah, yep, looks like Green's going to do his own siege as well with the catapult. So it's going to be a catapult war here. We'll see whose catapults can outdo. Oh, he's got his up to the heavy catapult. This is even more disturbing, actually. That's going to do even more damage, yeah. Whoa. How's this side doing here? Well, it looks like Cristiano did make sure to build guard towers at least, so he does have a really solid defense going into his base. Alright, let's see if these catapults can clean up those Centurions. Looks like they can clean those ones up with some good targeting. Oh, he shot his own dude, yeah. Watch out for the friendly fire. It's just like the mangonels in AoE 2. You do have friendly fire with these catapults, so do be careful of that. Might end up destroying your own troops if you're not careful, pretty much, yeah. Looks like he got a good advantage on top of these Centurions, and he should be able to siege his way in now. Yep, just keep moving your horse archers, or else these heavy catapults will be... Oh, wow, you got a nice shot there, too, yeah. You gotta keep moving with these things, man, yeah. Also, the Hittites get access to elfin archers as an alternative to the horse archer. So, horse archers are best used for their mobility, and the elephant archer as an alternative is the best archer if you're looking for tankiness stats. You know, they have really good hit points, and they also have some pretty decent armor and attack values. So, if you're just looking for like a really good tank unit, go with the elephants. If you're looking for, you know, some of that more classic cavalry archer functionality, then either chariot archers or horse archers is going to be your choice in most cases. Yeah. Looks like making a good move on these buildings here. I think Green's going to have some real problems here pretty soon. Yeah. Oh, he took a big mass of his Centurions to help bail out Yellow. Yeah, that's going to be pretty big. Now they're starting to push through Blue's offensive line there. Goes all those temples now. Is starting to construct towers here to basically stop the advance, but is it going to be enough? I think it's a little bit too late there. You should have been sending those up down here first, and then set up a defensive line, maybe. Oh, doing a bit of pressure here with the horse archers. Okay, that's a pretty good move. You know, just see how many villages you can just wipe out now. Yeah. Return of Rome is just an action-packed game. Like, there's always so much going on. Like, while you're fighting on the front lines, it's totally possible to just take chariot archers or horse archers and just completely wreck somebody's base from the inside out. Pretty much. Especially since, like I said, your town centers cannot fire arrows. So if you don't have a bunch of towers in your base, those horse archers could just camp there until you send military in to actually wipe them out, which is absolutely brutal. It really is. Alright, so catapults. Catapults didn't get a lot of hits in there, right? Oh, jeez. That was not a lot of damage. Really not. The horse archers are doing fairly well, though. And then they were basically sandwiched in by their scythe chariots. Alright. Watch out for this. You don't want these in your base. Once these get into your base, you're kind of in deep trouble. I can say that from personal experience when I face opponents and I get a huge mass of centurions in their base. You got some real problems, because not only do they wipe out villagers, they're great at siege. They got a lot of melee damage. They're good at just wiping out buildings. You know, it turns into a total chaos panic once these enter your base. I'd rather have chariot archers in my base than these things. These things are actually basically base crushers, really. So you definitely need to make sure when these things pop up that you deal with them appropriately. Does have some guard towers at least, you know, but that only goes so far unless you have a whole lot of them. Like, look at how long it takes for these towers to basically ship down the centurion here. It takes a long time. That's a lot of seconds to take down one centurion, so imagine a whole group like this. That's why these things are actually obnoxious to deal with once again to your base. It takes so much to do. So much to do. It's not even funny. Yeah, he's going to send the scythe chariots in to help, but I don't think that's going to do a whole lot, since these guys have some of the best melee armor in the game. That's going to like barely even put a scratch on them. You need horse archers here, man. Where's his horse archers? You gotta get these guys back there. You gotta make some more over here. Can you get some more horse archers and maybe hit them with the siege weapon without... Yeah. Now, this is his trade here, so he has to definitely make sure that this does not get lost. These trade carts. Yep. Gonna lose the town center now. Actually insane. Do be aware, though, that town centers in Return of Rome do not cost any stone. They only cost wood. So, you can actually make town centers way into the late game without any trouble. So, that's one thing that you can do in Return of Rome that you can't do in AoE 2. Because in AoE 2, of course, you have that small stone cost on your TCs. You don't have to worry about that here. So, depending on how much wood you got, it's pretty easy to spam town centers in Return of Rome, and you probably should. For producing villagers, setting up forward bases, and the buildings. Yeah, just more stuff to stay active and basically keep you from losing the frontal push, really, you know. Because you're going to lose villagers left and right. You got to keep an easy relay point where you can get more villagers in to keep putting up archery ranges, barracks, stables, siege workshops, all that, basically. But one thing you need to be aware of, though, in terms of town centers, in order to be able to construct multiple town centers, you actually have to construct a government center here, which is a technology-based building. It has a bunch of techs at in Bronze Age and the Third Age, so just make sure you build this thing right away so you can start spamming those TCs immediately upon hitting the Bronze Age, pretty much, yeah. Alright, so right now it looks like... How is blue doing? Seems like blue is basically in sort of a stalemate with yellow here in terms of his scythe chariots right now. Using some priests in the back to try to set up a line of healing and probably conversion as well, to give him that little bit of an edge to keep going in. Oh, adding in some chariot archers too because of the pressure on his gold through the trade. Ah, good move, you know. Sometimes once you start losing your gold, similar to AoE 2, you have to start falling back on trash units, which in this case would be your chariot archer for range, and for your cavalry that would be the chariot, and then of course after that you go to your really bad trash units like scout cavalry, axemen, bowmen, like that. Not improved bowmen, but actual just bowmen. Yeah. Thankfully, though, he's a chariot civ, so he has chariot archers that he can fall back on in this situation. Not the worst unit to fall back on, honestly, because of their kiting ability. Because, let me ask you this question. If you could choose a trash unit, would you want skirms, or would you want chariot archers? I would like chariot archers just because of how mobile they are and how well they can set up kiting and everything. Skirms, in AoE2, they're great against archers, but they move super slow because they're on foot, I definitely prefer Chariot archers over skirms any day of the week, I think, if I had to choose a trash unit that I could use. Similarly, I would definitely choose the Scythe Chariot over the Hussar, because the Hussar does not have splash attack. These guys do, though. So these things are actually brutal. Yeah. Looks like so many arrows are being fired that they're actually taking out the buildings. Wow. Very powerful indeed. He's got to watch his units here. He's losing these catapults for free right now. Yellow's coming to the aid once again with a few chariots, but just not enough. Yeah, if you're sending them in this little line here, of course they're going to be able to be picked off very easily. So they're going to have to come up with some sort of defensive plan here, I think, to keep this base safe. Town centers are going to be shelled, it looks like, from these rocks. Yep, so many Scythe Chariots, I love it. Yeah, the one thing that Blue is doing well here is he's grouping up his Scythe Chariots. That's what you want to do. That's something I learned early on when I started playing Age of Empires 1 and then later Return of Rome. The best way to make the most use of chariots is actually numbers. The more chariots you got in a group, the more damage and havoc they're going to cause with their splash attack. Yeah, you don't want to send chariots in by themselves or else they're going to die quickly. You got to send them in these huge armies like Blue is doing. This is exactly what you want to do. He's playing proper chariot warfare there. You definitely don't want to send them in little groups like this. I mean, they'll help against archers to do that, but against anything else, the chariots will just get completely cooked. Yeah. Here comes some... what are these? Ooh, scouts. So these are basically upgrades to the cavalry, I think. Yep. Pretty much. Oh, look at all these archers in the siege. I think Green is in trouble here. He's starting to lose the front of his base now. Something needs to be done. Oh, the Scythe Chariots have broken through. They're heading towards the farms now. Let's see if these guard towers can actually defend against these. I don't know, though. It's getting a bit tight here. It's really getting a bit intense. I don't know what's going to happen here. Good question. How's this going to go? Up. Oh, Hittites are going to start adding in their own Scythe Chariots. Alright, that's going to be a huge push, I think, then. I think why Jesse was a little bit hesitant to doing the Scythe Chariots before was just the fact that he's got so much siege that has friendly fire on it. He didn't kind of want to burn through his food and wood. Minkin units are going to probably end up in the crosshairs of that. So yeah, now that he's grouped it out, oh yeah, yep, GG, well played. They just called it. Very fun game. Very nice start to the series that I'm going to be doing with this stuff. Very nice. And after the game is ended, you can basically look at the statistics, all this wonderful stats. You got a military score, you got an economy score, and you got a technology score as well. And then in particular, you can look at military and see what the ratios look like. You got the graph here as well, pretty much, that you can look at. And then you can obviously change the way the graph looks. You can either do this sort of a stack graph, or you can do a line graph to determine who is doing good in these areas. And then over here you can do percentage of current, you can do relative to maximum, depend on what statistics you're looking for, pretty much. Yep. And then there's some features here, of course, you're going to have to get the premium version or the pro version to get. So if you like this CaptureAge tool a lot, you can definitely get that. Similar case for the other stats, technology, society, yep, just like that, yep. And this is all the premium stuff here, pretty much, yeah. So, alright, that's our first Return of Rome game. Let me know if you like this, I definitely want to do more of these, and I'm assuming as I do more of these, I'm going to become more seasoned as a caster for it, so definitely support me if you like this game and you want me to do more of it. I just want to bring a lot of awareness to Return of Rome and how great it is as a game, Everybody's like, oh, I love Age of Empires too, but in some ways, I think Return of Rome has an even more intense style of gameplay than even regular Age of Empires 2, and a lot more, I would say, an interesting late game, you know. I mean, like I said, do you want to have just little spearmen and javelin throwers, or do you want fully fledged chariots ruling the late game? I think I'd rather have chariots myself. Much cooler unit. So there we go. I'll be signing off now. See you next time for the next one I do, whenever that comes. All right? Bye-bye.